I overheard my wife plotting with her special friend to label me unstable and take my home. So I stayed quiet, recorded everything. And when she tried serving me a separation, I hit her with divorce papers and proof she never saw coming. My name is Logan. I'm in my mid-30s, born and raised in the US, and I thought I had a normal, boring life in the best way. My wife, Claire, and I had been together almost 10 years. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. Looking back, the first warning signs were so small that I brushed them off. More nights, out with friends. More late texts where she tilted the phone away. Inside jokes with a guy I'd never heard of before, Ryan. At first, he was someone from the gym, then an old friend. Then, you're being paranoid, Logan. I told myself not to be that insecure husband. I trusted her. Or I tried to. The night everything changed, it was a regular weekday. I had gone to bed early because I had a long day ahead. Claire said she was staying up to finish a show. I woke up around 1:30 a.m. because I needed to use the bathroom. The house was dark except for the faint blue light from the living room. I started down the hall and then stopped when I heard her voice. Not normal talking. Whispering. Like the walls were listening. I moved more slowly, my bare feet silent on the hardwood. I didn't go all the way to the doorway. I leaned against the wall, just close enough to hear. Once you move in, it'll be easy, she said softly. My chest felt tight. I held my breath without even thinking. Ryan's voice came through the phone, faint but clear. You really think he won't fight it? Claire gave a little laugh I hadn't heard in a long time. Not if everyone thinks he's unstable. We'll start slow. I'll tell my mom he's been off for a while. I'll say I'm worried. Then we accidentally record an argument or two. Make sure he looks volatile. I pressed my forehead against the wall. I remember the cool paint and the quiet hum of the TV. It grounded me for a second. She kept going, as if she were discussing a work project. I'll save texts where I say I'm scared to bring things up. I'll tell his sister I think he needs therapy. If he raises his voice even once, I'll put it on speaker and let someone hear. Bit by bit, they'll believe it. Ryan asked, what about the house? His family likes him, right? Yeah, she said. That's why we need the story to stick. He's been emotionally broken for years. I'm scared to leave, but I have to protect myself. Once everyone thinks he's unstable, he won't fight when we transition everything. He'll feel guilty. That's the point. There was a pause. I could hear her shifting on the couch. I'm tired of living like this, she whispered. I want you here. I want you in this house. If we do this right, he'll think it's his fault. He'll walk away. He won't even see it as us taking from him. He'll see it as us finally being free of his issues. They talked about timing, about how she'd start telling people I'd been emotionally distant, how she'd twist normal disagreements into stories of me being unpredictable and hard to talk to. They even mentioned how they could use my own words against me. Take a frustrated sentence and retell it as a rage episode. I felt something in me go very quiet. Not dramatic, just cold and clear. This wasn't an affair in the usual sense. This was a plan. They weren't just cheating. They were laying out steps to push me out of my own life, my own home, and make me doubt myself while they did it. I stood there for a long minute, listening. My first instinct was to walk in, yell, demand the phone, and demand an explanation. Instead, I pictured her face if I did that. Wide eyes, fake concern. Logan, you're scaring me. You're overreacting again. It hit me then. An outburst was exactly what they wanted. They needed scenes they could twist. They needed evidence. So I stepped back from the hallway, slow and careful. I went to the kitchen instead, turned on the faucet just enough to make noise, then walked a little heavier on the way back, like I'd just woken up. By the time I passed the living room, Claire had hung up. She was sitting on the couch, phone in her hand, acting absorbed in some show. You okay? She asked casually. You were tossing and turning. I took a breath and forced my voice to stay steady. Yeah, just needed some water. She nodded, eyes back on the screen. You should really talk to someone about your sleep. It's been weird lately. That line was for the record. Not a real record yet, but the story she wanted to tell. I walked back to bed, lay down, and stared at the ceiling. I replayed every word I'd heard. The plan. The fake arguments. The quiet campaign to turn my own family against me. Right then, I made two decisions. First, I wasn't going to give them a single real scene they could use. Second, I was going to record everything. I didn't sleep that night. I kept my breathing slow, so Claire wouldn't notice, but my mind stayed wide awake, steady in a way I didn't expect. I wasn't shaking or panicking. I was focused. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage had tilted, and I needed to figure out what to do before she made her first move. The next morning, Claire was cheerful in a way that felt practiced. She made coffee, kissed my cheek, and asked about my plans like nothing in the world was wrong. I watched her talk while stirring creamer into her cup, and it almost felt like she was acting in front of an audience. Except the audience wasn't there yet. She wanted me calm, cooperative. easy to redirect. That made things simpler. I started small. I downloaded an app that automatically saved phone audio when triggered. I placed a tiny recorder in the coat closet near the living room, right where she usually paced when she whispered to Ryan. I also backed up every shared account, every online document, every message I'd ever sent. Not to snoop, just to protect myself before things got twisted. I didn't do anything dramatic or suspicious. Just quiet, invisible preparation. Claire didn't notice. If anything, she seemed relieved that I was acting normal. She probably thought her plan was already settling into position. Over the next 2 weeks, I saw the early signs she had talked about that night. She started telling her mom I'd been withdrawn. I wasn't. I was just quiet. But she retold it like it meant something deeper. Then she made little comments to friends on speakerphone. Logan's been having a hard time processing stress, or he got irritated yesterday. I'm honestly getting worried. Nothing big. Each one is subtle. Each one was carefully placed. She didn't know I was recording it all. Even small things sounded different when I played them back. Her tone, the pauses, the way she framed normal disagreements as episodes. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was smooth, patient. Ryan, meanwhile, became bolder. He started texting late at night. She didn't bother hiding it much anymore, probably assuming I wouldn't ask questions if I wanted to keep the peace. One afternoon, I came home early and heard her in the backyard talking to him on a video call. She didn't know I was home. She talked about which parts of the house he'd redo once he moved in. She talked about the timeline. She talked about how she'd start suggesting therapy to me in front of my sister soon. So it looked natural. I recorded all of it. I didn't feel angry the way I expected. Not the shaking, out of control kind. More like a quiet heaviness settling in my chest. It was clear she didn't see me as a partner anymore. She saw me as an obstacle she needed to move out of her way gently, so she could live guilt-free with someone else. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how organized she was. How certain she felt that she could push me out of my own life, one small rumor at a time. That hurt in a strange. But I stayed calm. I had to. A real argument would ruin everything I was building. I needed her plan to keep unfolding exactly as she intended, because the more she revealed, the stronger my proof became. A week later, the first major shift happened. She sat across from me at dinner, playing with her fork, pretending to hesitate. "Logan," she said, voice soft. "I've been thinking about something, and I don't want you to take it the wrong way." I already knew what this was. The therapy suggestion. Step 1 of her script. "I think it might help if you talk to someone," she said. "You've seemed overwhelmed lately. I'm worried about you." Her eyes looked gentle, caring, almost tender. But I'd heard the truth at 1:30 a.m. That softness was a strategy. Instead of reacting, I nodded slowly. "Yeah," I said. "Maybe you're right. I'll think about it." Her relief was almost visible. She probably thought everything was falling into place. She had no idea how much I already knew. After the therapy talk, Claire started acting more confident around me. Not openly disrespectful, just sure of the story she was building. She'd drop hints about my mood swings when we were around people, slip in subtle comments when her sister visited, and even mention how I'd been distant lately while she stood right next to me. I didn't react. Not even once. Every calm answer I gave seemed to reassure her that her plan was working. When someone expects you to break, staying level becomes its own kind of shield. Over the next couple of weeks, things unfolded exactly the way she and Ryan had discussed that night. She began keeping her phone face down. She took long showers while whispering on calls. She laughed at messages she quickly swiped away. The pattern was predictable, and honestly, flattering in a twisted way. She thought she was the mastermind, and I was walking around unaware. The real turning point came when she tried to stage her first argument. It was a Saturday morning. I was in the kitchen making a simple breakfast. Claire walked in, already annoyed about something. Not naturally annoyed, though. It had this rehearsed feel, like she'd practiced lines. She asked why I hadn't folded the laundry yet. I had folded it. It was in the bedroom. But she wanted tension, so she ignored that. "You always do this," she said. "You start chores, and then leave everything half done." Her tone was too sharp for such a small thing. I saw her glance at her phone. Screen up, camera slightly angled. She wanted me to snap. She needed that clip. I just nodded. "Sorry. I'll handle it after breakfast." She pushed harder. "This is what I mean, Logan. You never follow through. You've been so unpredictable lately." Still calm. "Okay. I'll finish it." She paused, waiting. When I didn't raise my voice, she finally grabbed her phone and left the room. On the recording later, I heard her whisper to Ryan. He didn't bite. "I'll try later." That little moment told me everything. This wasn't about emotions or frustration or even her affair. This was a deliberate setup, and it meant she was ready for the next step. That night, while she was asleep, I checked the recorder in the closet. It had hours of conversations, her plans, her talks with Ryan, the timeline, the stories she'd tell our families, even her practicing sad, shaky lines like, "I tried to help him, but he refused." I copied everything onto a secure drive and backed it up twice. The following week, she escalated again. She confided in my sister during a brunch at our house that I had been getting worse. She said I had emotional highs and lows, that she'd never seen me like this. Meanwhile, she kept touching my shoulder, acting gentle, like she was standing by an unwell partner. I didn't interrupt. I didn't argue. I just listened and memorized the lines she changed. When my sister left, Claire hugged me. "You handled that really well," she said. "I'm proud of you." Her voice was calm, but I could hear the satisfaction beneath it. The plan was settling deeper now. She thought she was crafting the perfect version of events. She didn't know my sister called me an hour later. "Logan, something feels off," she said. "She was trying way too hard to make it sound like you were struggling." That was the first person who didn't buy her act. It gave me something I didn't realize I needed. Proof that the truth wasn't invisible. Still, I stayed quiet. Still collecting recordings. Then came the night that pushed everything forward. Claire told Ryan, on a recorded call, that she was planning to ask me for a trial separation soon. Not because she wanted one, but because she needed it to look gradual before they took the house and assets. She said, "Once he agrees to the separation, we'll tell everyone it was because he couldn't manage his emotions. After that, he won't have the energy to fight anything." I listened to that recording 3 times. A separation, my home, reputation, and my family's trust, all being arranged behind my back. I needed one last piece before I moved forward. Undeniable proof that Claire and Ryan were planning to take everything. My home, my savings, even my family's trust. Not just an affair. Not just lies. A coordinated plan. That proof arrived on a quiet Thursday night. Claire thought I was out running errands. She was in the dining room with her laptop open, on a video call. I heard her voice from the hallway, steady, confident, and so comfortable that it almost felt like she was speaking to someone she trusted more than anyone else. "Once the separation papers are signed, it'll be simple," she said. "He doesn't pay attention to half the financial stuff. Ryan, you'll help me manage everything. By the time he realizes what happened, it'll be too late." My hands tightened, but I stayed still. I listened. Ryan responded, "Are you sure he'll sign without fighting?" "He will," she said. "He hates conflict. And everyone already thinks he's been off lately. When he sees how worried people are, he'll feel guilty and go along with it." Then she added something that set the final line in place. "And if he pushes back, I can always bring up the recordings. Even if they're twisted a little, no one's going to side with him once they believe he's unstable." That sentence alone would have ended our marriage. But I stayed calm. I didn't walk in. I saved the recording. And the next morning, I called a lawyer. I didn't tell him the whole story at once. Just enough to get started. He asked me a few direct questions, told me what documents to gather, and explained how to protect myself before serving anything. He recommended speaking to my family in person, not to argue my side, but to show them the evidence quietly and without emotion. He said, "People remember how you present the truth. If you stay steady, no one will believe the story she's building." So that weekend, I drove to my sister's house with a flash drive and a printed timeline. I didn't exaggerate or break down. I just showed her the recordings, the whispered plan, the fake emotional stories, the staged arguments. The plan is to remove me from my own home. She didn't interrupt. She didn't question. At the end, she said, "Logan, you need to get out before she flips the story on you." My parents reacted the same way, quiet shock followed by strong support. No one believed Claire's version anymore. And knowing that before the storm helped more than anything. The next part of the plan was simple. Stay calm. Act normal. Give Claire nothing suspicious. And prepare for the exact moment she thought she'd won. That moment arrived faster than I expected. One night, she walked into the bedroom with a serious expression, holding a folded paper. I knew what it was before she spoke. "Logan," she said, voice soft, "I think we need some space. Just a temporary separation. I want us to figure things out gently." Her tone was rehearsed. Soft enough to sound caring. Sad enough to make it believable. I nodded slowly. "Okay, if you think that's best." She wasn't expecting agreement. She froze for half a second, then placed a hand on my shoulder. "I'm glad you're being understanding," she said. "It's healthier for both of us." She didn't know that while she slept that night, I took pictures of every document, every message, every financial file she had tucked away in her desk. She didn't know that the next morning, my lawyer filed a petition, not for separation, but for divorce, with evidence attached. And she definitely didn't know that the court date was already scheduled. I served her the papers at home, quietly. She opened the envelope, expecting something she could spin. What she read instead made her go still. Recordings, transcripts, financial copies, A list of witnesses. My lawyer's statement outlining her plan to manipulate my family and fabricate instability. She looked up at me, stunned. But the real shock came later that afternoon, when two officers knocked on the door to collect her written and digital communication for the investigation tied to manipulation and attempted fraud. Claire didn't understand what was happening at first. She kept staring at the officers like they were at the wrong house. She even laughed, trying to play confused. "There must be a mistake," she said, looking between them and me. "Logan's been having issues lately. I've been trying to help him." One officer cut her off. "Ma'am, we just need to collect the devices listed in the order." Her confidence cracked. She tried asking for more time, tried acting offended, tried saying the whole thing was unnecessary. But the officers stayed calm and professional, and within minutes, they had what they came for. When they left, she turned on me. "This is ridiculous," she said. "You're twisting everything. You're not well, Logan. Everyone knows you've been unstable." She didn't realize how much the situation had changed. I stayed quiet and steady. "Claire," I said, "I know everything. I've known for weeks." The color in her face shifted. She wasn't crying. She just stood there, trying to figure out what angle to take now that the usual ones weren't working. "You're doing this because you're angry," she said. "We can fix this if you calm down." Her voice was soft again, her favorite tactic, the soothing tone that covered the lies. "I'm not angry," I told her. "I'm done." She started pacing, muttering that she could explain, that I misunderstood, that she was venting to a friend and nothing more. But when she realized I wasn't responding the way she expected, she grabbed her keys. "I need air," she said, rushing out the door. That was the last time she walked out of the house as my wife. The days that followed moved quickly. My lawyer submitted everything. The recordings, the timelines, the staged arguments, her exact words about pushing me out of my home. The judge reviewing the case requested a closer look, which strengthened my position even more. Claire tried everything to save face. She went to my parents and claimed I was unstable. They played the recordings for her. She went to my sister and said I twisted the story. My sister showed her the typed transcripts. She even tried reaching out to a few friends to build sympathy, but by then, they had already heard the truth from the people who mattered most. Even Ryan tried to get involved. He sent me a long message about how I was overreacting and ruining Claire's life. I forwarded it directly to my lawyer. During the hearing, Claire barely spoke. Her attorney kept flipping through pages, whispering to her, but there was no spin strong enough to erase her own voice saying the plan out loud. "He'll think it's his fault. He'll walk away. Once he signs, it'll be too late." Even if the recordings are twisted a little, hearing those lines in front of a judge, her attorney, law enforcement, and both our families left her with nothing to stand on. The court favored me on every major point: assets, property, documentation control, and immediate separation. They made it clear that the attempts to paint me as unstable were manipulative and harmful. Claire left the courthouse without looking at me. She tried calling once afterwards, but all she said was, "I never meant for it to go this far." But the recordings said otherwise. The strange part? I wasn't happy. I just felt free. When I moved the last of her things into boxes, the house felt quiet for the first time in months. Not tense, not staged, just quiet. I changed the locks and let the air shift back into something that felt like mine. Claire and Ryan didn't last long after that. Apparently, the pressure and attention were too much. She moved out of state soon after. Ryan blocked everyone. It wasn't karma in a flashy way. It was just the natural end of a plan built on lies. I never raised my voice.